Hi guys, welcome to another Whiskey Web Wednesday. Today's video is going to be about whiskey with an E, Irish whiskey. Now, following Saturday's result, perhaps the worst result in the history of Irish football, I commiserate immensely with my Irish brothers and sisters. Losing at home 1-0 to Luxembourg, a country of 630,000 people. As a Scottish football fan, I feel your pain following our relatively recent 3-0 loss to Kazakhstan, perhaps the worst result in Scottish football. So I think us Celtic folk, we need a wee drink, and we need to think about the future and revitalisation. So what better Irish whiskey to do that than Kilbeggan? And especially this Kilbeggan here, which is the first single pot still Irish whiskey to made at the old Kilbeggan distillation site or distillery. So this distillery was originally established in 1757. Now that's before Luxembourg was even a country, when it ceded from France, or the French Empire, in 1815. So that shows the history of this place. It's a beautiful building, perhaps the most characterful buildings or group of buildings in Irish distilling. You can check it out online, beautiful whitewashed buildings and a little water wheel, a nice chimney stack with the whiskey with an E on it. And it eventually closed due to tough times, but it reopened in, I think 2007 was when they started making spirit again. And 2010 was when they installed the mash tun and fermenters, so that's when they actually had full production. And this whiskey here is actually the second whiskey to be released following Kilbeggan's own production. There was the Kilbeggan blend, which used primarily Cooley whiskey, another distillery in Ireland, one of the other three that were operating. That would be Bushmills, Middleton and Cooley. But this one is 100% made from spirit produced at the Kilbeggan distillery. So fantastic, exciting opportunity to try a traditional part of the Irish whiskey renaissance. So it says here, distilled, matured and bottled in Ireland. This is made from 2 copperpot stills, so it's double distilled at the Kilbeggan distillery, and that's quite rare in Irish whiskey. A lot of it's triple distilled, whereas this one's double, which is more of a Scotch style distillation method. And they actually use one of the oldest stills probably in the world. I think it's 180 years old, one of the stills they use, so very old traditional equipment. And for the mash bill, it's very interesting because they actually were inspired by a mash bill from the late 1800s. And it's a mixture of malted barley, unmalted barley and a bit of oats. And it says here in the bottle 2.5% oats in the mash. But following a bit of research, I had a look at this book here, A Glass Apart, which is a good resource for Irish single pot still whiskey. And they talked about one of the Irish Whiskey Society Kilbeggan pot still casks. And they actually gave the mash bill as 62.5% malted barley, 35% raw barley and 2.5% oats. And in this book as well, they talk about that history where they used to primarily have malted barley and malted oats as part of the mash bill at Kilbeggan. So great history, and it's great to see the use of oats in Irish whiskey. It gives a lovely creamy mouth feel. So this is, whiskey made the old traditional way, and a nice look back to the old way of doing things. And in case you're wondering, there's a wee picture of the Kilbeggan distillery there in all its glory. So a beautiful spot, well worth checking out. And it was actually a museum for a long time while they weren't producing whiskey. This whiskey is bottled at 43% alcohol, and according to the bottle we should get soft mellow whiskey with a warming palate of citrus, summer fruits, fresh mint and a lingering spice that precedes a rich creamy finish influenced by the oats. Ah, that's better. That reminds me more of Irish victories like Brazil in 1987, the only Celtic nation, that's Scotland, Wales, Ireland, to have beaten Brazil. And the following year they actually beat England 1-0 as well, so reminds me of better times for Irish football this. Very, very fruity on the nose. Tons of pineapple, guava, mangoes. I'm getting a lot of green apple, specifically Granny Smith's green apple, nice and fresh and crisp. There's vanilla, toasted oak. Yeah, a bit of barley sugar too. And that honeycomb middle of a crunchy chocolate bar, that's in there as well. Okay, now for the palate. Light, citrusy, creamy, hint of wood. A breakfast whiskey, an easy sipper, something that's not going to overly challenge your mouth in terms of sharp notes or too much spice or anything, just beautifully balanced. The casks for this whiskey are all ex-bourbon, you can tell by the colour and the flavour, and they're typically aged at least 4 years old. So they've been making this stuff for about 10 years, so hopefully, you know, we're looking more at like 5, 6, 7-year-old whiskey here. Just lovely, fresh, delicious, balanced whiskey. So a fantastic start to Kilbeggan's revival as a single pot still destination for making Irish whiskey. And this is good evidence of promising times to come. So don't worry, Irish football fans, things will always go better in the long term. Enjoy your Irish drams. Have a wonderful summer when it comes, and this is a good whiskey for drinking on the park bench on a nice summer's day. So yeah, cheers everyone, here's to Kilbeggan and here's to Irish whiskey. Cheers.